This is Mike at Fancy Foam Models. Recently we made a change to our SkyCart kit to try to add a little more durability to the wheels. The initial design, we definitely wanted to keep the wheels light, but found that fairly quickly, depending on how it was flown and what kind of surface, that the wheels did get torn up. So we've come up with a modification that is part of the standard kit now that will improve the durability of the wheels without increasing the weight very much. The kits now come with a couple sheets with some wheel cutouts that'll end up going inside of the wheel itself. When you get your sheet, you just either carefully break loose or cut loose one of the wheel inserts from the sheet itself, and then inside of each insert are some extra foam pieces that'll need to be removed as well. So this is the foam piece itself that's going to be inserted inside the wheel. It's got some spokes on it. There's 7 of them total that will fit inside the wheel, and then the original inside and outside rims, and then of course the tread piece that'll fit outside of that. To start out with, what we're going to do is put the plastic bearings on. The kit comes with 2 different bearing sizes, a small one and a large one. There'll be 6 of the smaller bearings and 2 of the larger bearings. The larger bearing goes on the inside of the front wheels, one on the left and one on the right. This is the place where most of the damage occurs, and so we increase the bearing size to give it a little more glue area and spread the load out. The outside of the front wheels, and then both the inside and outside of the rear wheels, gets the smaller disc. So we're going to start out by taking our inside and outside pieces, they're the same, and we're going to glue these bearings onto them. For all my construction, I'm going to use the welder's foam tack. This is our recommended glue. It works really well, cures fairly quickly, at least to the point to where you can work on it within 30 seconds or a minute, and then dries almost completely, as far as fully cured, in about 10 minutes or so, depending on how thick you put it on. So I'm going to take the inside bearing for the front wheel, and I'm going to put a bead of glue all the way around. I'm going to leave some space at the center. I don't want to get glue inside the hole of the bearing. And then lining up, I can see through. I have this piece of plywood, so it's light colored. I can see through the hole in the center of the wheel, and I can see through the hole in the center of the bearing, and I'm just going to line those up and then press those together. Alternatively, you can take, this is one of the rear carbon axles, and use that to line up the bearing to the foam piece. And so I'm going to press that down and set it aside, and then I'm going to glue on the outside bearing. Again, I'm going to sight where I can see the center hole in the foam and the center hole in the bearing. When they're lined up, then I'll press them together. And then I'm going to set those 2 aside. Next thing I'm going to do is start gluing the inserts together. Now, we don't want to have the inserts lined up with all the spokes lined up together, because that'll cause this portion to be a little bit weaker. If we rotate the inserts so they line up like that, now I've got strength all the way around the wheel. So what I'm going to do is take my first one, and I'm going to add, we don't need to glue everything on this, we just need to kind of hold it in place. So I'm going to do a little bit around the center, and then I'm going to do a dot out at the end of each spoke. And then I'm going to take the next one and place it right over the top. Now I'm not too worried. It could be off a little bit, but it's not too hard to line these up to where it's nice and even. And then I'll just go around the outside and make sure that everything's centered. Same as with the other piece, I can take an axle, run it through the center, and make sure it's lined up. And then I'll just continue on with each piece. And again, the top one has a spoke here, and so the one on top of it, I'm going to run that spoke kind of even odd as I go around. Now, since I'm not allowing the foam tack to cure, it's a contact cement, I'm not actually using it in the contact assembly manner like I normally would, and what that does is it buys me a little more time to get everything lined up just the way I want it. If I were to spread the glue on both sides of the joint and then pull them apart, let them tack up, and put them back together, then they would stick really well. As it is, I can still kind of separate everything pretty easily. Now I'm going to take my rear axle and kind of get it through the center, and like you saw there, I just kind of rolled it a little bit, and that makes sure everything's square on the wheel itself. So the next thing I'm going to do is add one of the outer pieces. Same here, I'm going to go around the inside. I'm going to do 3 dots around the outside. And actually I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around to just kind of secure that a little bit better. And this will just line up with those pieces. I can run the axle in again, make sure everything's lined up in the center. Yep. Flip this over, do the same thing on the other side. Get that in place. And again, check the fit of my axle. It's now through, completely through the wheel. Everything's fitting together really nice. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave that axle in there. So the final step is to take the tread portion and we're going to wrap it completely around the wheel. The fit should be really good to where when it comes around that these edges will line up real nice. So first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue on the very edge of the foam here. And then I'm going to take the other side and touch it to that edge and kind of spread the glue around, because this is one place where I do want to have this nice contact joint. So I'm going to smear the glue around a little bit so that here in a little bit when I put it together it'll stick nice. Now I'm going to take and right near the edge I'm going to put a bead of the foam tack. I'm going to place my wheel assembly on that, pull that up and around, pull this side up and around, and then carefully press the two ends of the foam together. And because they were allowed to dry a little bit, they're sticking nicely and holding the tread to the outside of the wheel. Now I want to go back and make sure right here I have this sidewall of the tire is not underneath the tread piece, and so I'm going to carefully push that in, make sure it's in all the way around, roll that a little bit. You want to make sure you have a surface you don't mind getting a little bit of glue on. If you do, you want to tape down some wax paper, parchment paper, something like that to keep the glue off your building surface. And then this will take a few minutes to set up, and so I want to come back to it every minute or so and just kind of keep pressing down the foam all around the edges so that as it tacks up that it'll be secured in place. I don't want to have it dry and have a portion of it pulled up or not where I want it. And so I'll just periodically check that. And again, I've had this axle through the center the whole time. As you can see, the wheel spins really nice. And that's an assembled wheel. The rear wheels will be identical, except again they will have a small bearing on both the inside and the out instead of this large one. This large one goes on the front tire towards the inside because that's where all the main load is when you hit the front end, which is a heavier part of the cart. As with any of our EPP, if you do get in a situation where the front wheel is torn, you can use your foam tack glue. Try to get all the pieces and just glue them back in place. And the wheel is very repairable, should last a long time. If the wheel gets beat up to the point to where you're missing pieces or it's just getting pretty ragged, we do sell a wheel kit that's available separate from the rest of the parts, so you can just replace your wheels and that'll get you going again. If you have any questions, be sure to email me at mike@fancyfoam.com or post a comment on RC groups. I monitor it regularly, so you can get on there and answer your questions. Thank you for watching.